today's video I'm going to be testing out the Silky Outback blade. Now I was a bit of a cheapskate. I didn't buy the whole saw. I didn't really see the point. A brand new Outback big boy is about £100 here in the UK, and seeing as there's nothing wrong with this saw, just the blade was a bit blunt, I decided to change the blade, and that was still pretty expensive. It was £50. Well, I'll have a talk about that later. I need to cut a couple of rounds up with this now for a base for my fire. See how good this thing is. I have also got a new knife which I'm going to be using today, and this is the Roselli carpenter's knife, and I've been after one of these for a while, and I finally got my hands on one in a trade, so I'm going to be using this knife. Fire will be a no bull affair today. I got plenty of splits from last week and I might as well use them up. Any splitting duties I need, I'll be using my wildlife hatchet. Let's try this thing out then. Well, it's a definite improvement on the old blade. Is that just because the old one was blunt, or is this really worth the extra money? I don't know yet. Not the ideal size axe for splitting this, but we'll give it a go. Well, as you can see, that didn't want to go. I'll tell you what, I'll leave them till when I've got a bigger axe. I did manage to split the first round down easily, but that second one doesn't want to go. But that's all I really need is the base. Well, my matches are damp, and I keep these matches in a plastic bag with some birch bark up here. Well, these are pretty useless now. And there was an old trick years ago. If you had a damp match, you took your hat off. Now, I don't have much hair, but apparently if you rub a match in your hair, the static electricity dries the match. We'll see. Unbelievable. It lit. Well, it's lit, and let me tell you something, that was touch and go. I'm not a fan of blowing into a fire when it's just kicking off, so that was a bad bit of fire lighting by me. Basically damp feather sticks. Feather sticks are always better when you make them fresh. I think I better put my kettle on. Basically that's 3 fails. Number 1, the axe was too small for the job. It is winter after all, so the axe was too small for the job. 1 fail. Second fail, don't use matches you leave at camp. Always keep stuff dry in your pack. Third fail, don't use damp feather sticks. So I relied today on what was here to get a quick fire going, and that was touch and go. Went up, that's the main thing, but that's a few failures so I can pass on to you guys, and then we all know something. Yes, but the hair trick's a good one. I think I've done it many years ago, when I had hair probably. Yeah, so don't rely on matches you leave at camp, and if you do, leave them in an airtight container, a match safe or something. There is a reason why they sell them, and people decant them from a box into there, definitely. Now let's face it, I wouldn't have had a problem lighting that again. A few more quick feather sticks or my fire lighting discs and that will be up. But I carry enough stuff because I've got the sense to. Don't be arrogant. That is the key. Don't be arrogant. Always carry enough stuff to get your fire going. Time for tea. While sitting here having a nice cup of tea, thinking about what I'd done wrong with the fire, I realised if I'd have done it 2 other ways, it would have worked just fine. First way, if I'd have made some Siberian feather sticks, which are basically thick feather sticks, not thin curls, and put them between the thin feather sticks and the splits, that would have worked. Or if I'd have built the fire, so put the feather sticks down, put the splits on top in a crisscross fashion, introduce the match into there, then I wouldn't have wasted any heat. The heat coming off the feather sticks as they initially burn would have dried the splits a bit more, and that should have worked as well. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but we learn from our mistakes. One other thing, and I suppose a few of you have noticed this, I can process this down with this small axe. It just means taking small pieces off the side and working my way around instead of trying going through the middle, because it wasn't going to work. But I have got an older video where I've got a round about this size where I process it down with a bush tool. So it's easily done, but I want to keep these in the round because I've bought a Gransforth small splitting axe. I should have had it today, but I was out yesterday when the postman called and I missed it, so I'll get it Monday. But yeah, I'm going to keep these because they'll be a good test for that splitting axe. Right, I'm going to finish my tea and then I'm going to play with this knife. Night time. As I mentioned earlier, I got this knife in a trade recently and I'm just going to go through this quickly. This sheath had been adapted by the previous owner for a left-handed carry, so I had to do a bit of funky adaptation to it to get it back to are right-handed, so I made this little collar with a dangler clip. That's enough on that sheath. Well, basically the sheath, it's got a plastic insert, it's tough, knife's not cutting through it, nothing wrong with the sheath. Personally, I'd dye it because, you know, it's very light and that can get dirty quite quickly if it's hanging from your belt, sticking in the floor, dragging along things. So I'd go with the darker sheath, but that's nothing important. Now this is the carpenter's knife, and I'm not going to do any battening with this because it's just not meant for it. So this is for cutting wood. The grind on it is a high Scandi with a micro bevel or secondary bevel, but more of a micro bevel. It arrived reasonably sharp, and that's all I've done to it is run it over the polishing wheel. With that kind of grind on it, it'll cut well anyway. Whether it'll shave wood really well, I don't know. We're going to see now. The handle is very comfortable. As a carpenter's knife, it's probably designed to be comfortable because you're going to be using it quite a bit. Yes, handle is very comfortable. Well, I picked some choice splits when I was splitting kindling earlier, and let's shave a bit of wood with it. Well, first thing I'm noticing is it is digging in. So I'm not going to get them tiny little curls for ferro rod lighting. Spine's reasonably sharp with this knife, unless I really concentrate. Just doesn't want to do it. It just doesn't want to do it at all. I'll get my bush tool out now and I'll show you the difference. So this is a steep 0 Scandi. So straight away I'm getting smaller curls. So that's the first thing I'm noticing. It won't make feather stick curls like I want them. And I'm assuming most of you want tight curls to light with a ferro rod as well. But I know it's going to excel at cutting. I've just got a little piece of seasoned willow here. I'm going to put a point on it. Put a hole in it then. That didn't take long at all. 0 damage to the tip. Pretty good so far. It's just flying through the wood, fair play. Pot hanger notch in no time, and you know, this is seasoned, this isn't green. I'd normally make a pot hanger out of green wood, and this would just fly through it. To be fair to this knife, it's not branded as a bushcraft knife. It is branded as a carpenter's knife. So it is going to cut well. It'll probably carve well, but it doesn't feather well. But it's not meant to. Try a little bit of splitting now, the old Moz technique. One little thing now about doing this. I've probably mentioned this before. When you're going to try and split a piece of kindling down, if you go that way, you're going to experience a lot more resistance than if you go that way. Just something to bear in mind. And what I'll do, I'll make a Siberian feather stick. Seeing as I mentioned it earlier, I'll do one. I've always called it a second stage feather stick personally, rather than a Siberian one. I think Siberian comes from the fact that you use a big log and you carve it off and then cut it off the big log. Saying big, it's not going to be that big. Something like that. But yeah. So you get a log, split it down the middle, shave it and then bang, cut it off. But that's really a second stage feather stick. So if you think about it, this knife comes from Finland. Hell of a lot of birch bark in Finland. You light the birch bark and then you light your Siberian feather stick and it'd be just fine. I will try and light feather stick with it now. I got a little thin piece. I'm going to make some very fine shavings off it. I've also got a piece of fat wood, so I'll try that as well. I do like to know if the spine is any good with the ferro rod. Well, I really struggled to make them little shavings. I could do with a hell of a lot more. Yeah, not the grind for it. So I've got a piece of fat wood and I'll try and take some scrapings off with the spine to light. Now what I'm finding, that's not particularly sharp, but where the bevel meets, that is nice and sharp. Well, it took its time to light, but it did light, so that's the main thing. Let's try this feather stick, which I'm not holding out much hope for. Well, it lit, but it doesn't make good feathers at all. you guessed it, it's time for another cup of tea. I left my fire unattended for a while, so I need to get it going again. It won't take long. My opinion on the Roselli carpenter's knife. Basically, it cuts really well, the handle's comfortable, my hands are a little bit cold and they're very dry at the moment, and I'm finding it a bit slippery, but apart from that, it does the job just fine. But I wouldn't call it a woods knife, definitely not. The grind doesn't want to curl wood for fire lighting, and I really wouldn't want to batten it. I wasn't going to do it anyway because I don't want to damage it. Spine is sharp enough to scrape wood and scrape a ferro rod, so I haven't got a problem with that, but it's the grind that puts me off. But as I said, and as I demonstrated, it cuts wood really well. It's just not a woods knife, but I like it anyway. It's a bit different. Onto my cup of tea, because the kettle has boiled quickly, I should say. Time to do a bit more work with this. Well, I've got a small trunk fallen on the ground, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to also sned some of the branches off with this as well. I'll do the top branches first, and then I'll cut it in half. And when I cut it in half, because it's close to the ground, I'll use it in that configuration. Well, I don't see any difference between this blade and a nice fresh regular blade. Personal opinion. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Been slightly enlightening for you. And I'll see you next time. Remember that thumbs up, and that is always appreciated. Until the next time, ta-ra! Greetings, friends. You're still here. Cool. I'm still here as well, because I'm going to film something else. Another extra little short video. I've got a lot to say. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some bloopers here today. So sit back, enjoy. Hopefully going camping next weekend. And looking forward to that, because I haven't camped out for about 2 months. So, and I haven't done actually any woods camping for ages. Difficult these days, family commitments and so forth, and getting everybody to be able to go out at the same time, because I like camping with friends. I'm a social animal. I will be doing something for Moz's anniversary, and I'm in plans for that, so I will be doing something for Moz's anniversary next month. That's about it really. Yeah, so that Silky blade, jury's out on that, time will tell. Who knows, it may last forever. I wouldn't bet on it. I've been told that the reason it's better is because it's been hardened more, and it's got that coating. The coating, yeah, that may help a bit, But why would you make something that's pretty hard to start with even harder? Because I've got a bogboy, and that's missing a tooth. So it's obviously hard to miss a tooth, isn't it? Yeah, seeing as I don't really cut anything that hard with it. It's usually spruce or, you know, bit of hazel occasionally, sometimes oak, but that's not very often. I don't think I've actually cut any oak with that particular saw. So who knows? I think they're a bit hard anyway. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy the bloopers. Spine wise, it is sharp enough to shave. Made some nice thick Siberian feather sticks and put them between the thin there. Start again. Got a piece of fat wood. What I'll do, I'll use the spine. Well, in fact, I won't use the spine because it's not that sharp. Oh, fucking hell. I'll try and chalk that one down to experience. Although I've done it before, so, you know, nobody's perfect. But yeah. But it's good to know the trick with the match and the hair, what little I have. Bullshit for people who like to spend money. It's a good reason why not to cut your hair down to the bone. It's just, your hair is your survival kit. And if you've got really long hair, you can make cordage out of it and all kinds of shit. And you can tie fishing flies. Like you go, you know. Basically, that's 3 feet. Shit. Well, that's it for today's video. Oh, fucking hell.